Oh dear.
Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Interfaith Week at Southampton 2020. I am Claire Le Foll. I'm the director of the Parks Institute for the Study of Jewish non-Jewish relations. I'm very happy that we have managed to organize an Interfaith Week in these conditions in spite of the pandemic and in spite of the lockdown. This is actually more urgent and necessary than ever to support this interfaith dialogue and to talk to each other in the light of recent events in France and in Austria, among others. So we will have, Anushka has put in the chat the program of the Interfaith Week, so you can still join us to other events. And today we will have a virtual peace walk, so we will go through different buildings in Southampton of faith. So we will discover 3 buildings live, a synagogue, a church, and a mosque. And at the end, I will also show a video about the Quakers, so the Religious Society of Friends. And you will have a chance to ask questions at the end. So please use the Q&A tool in or the chat, and we can take questions at the end. So if we can start with Martin from the Jewish community and from the synagogue, please.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hi. I'm going to speak fairly quickly because I've got an idea my battery might be fading, not my own personal battery. But I'm going to start going into the synagogue now. So just coming into the prayer hall. And what can we see? This is an unusual situation because normally when we have the peace walk, there would have been about 200 people sort of coming in here that had come straight up from the Gurdwara. They'd all been fed and they'd all come in and it'd been really noisy. So just me in here, and I'm hoping I'll sort of stay live for a little while. So what can we see when we come in? Well, straight ahead, you can see where we actually do our prayers from. This is called the Bimah. And it's where if we have a rabbi or who's ever leading the prayers would actually be standing and actually be reading from. If I go up a bit, I think you can see straight ahead, you can see the ark. And you can see that it's, I can say there's like an oval frame to it. Hopefully you can see this. And just above it, if you can see that, is a light. Can you see the light? I'm not sure. I'm going to move a bit closer because the light is very important. The light is known as the Ner Tamid. It is an eternal light. So in other words, it stays on the whole time. It never goes out. Well, that's not exactly strictly true, but it shouldn't ever go out. And it's traditional. Every synagogue in the world will have a light of some sort. They're not always red, but they'll all have a light. And it goes back to sort of olden times when there was always a light burning in the temple in Jerusalem. The only time that light's gone out, the caretaker came on in a panic to me, the lady there, she said, I can't understand it. It's so spiritual here, but the light's gone out. What do I do? And that happened about 20 years ago, and it hasn't happened since, fortunately. What I'm going to do a little twirl so that you can see that the seating areas on the left there where the windows are. And if you look near the back, there's a raised area there, and that is the ladies' gallery. This is an Orthodox synagogue, and therefore, when we have any services, the men and the ladies sit actually separately. It's just one of those traditions. It doesn't happen in all synagogues, but in an Orthodox synagogue, the men and women are always separate. If I keep on turning round and go back without making myself dizzy or yourselves, I'm going to go forward, and you'll see straight ahead of me. Can I see it on there? It is, it's what it is. It's just not, I can't see it because of the lightness of it. You can see a candelabra. Now that candelabra is a menorah, and probably most people would have heard of a menorah being a symbol of Judaism. But this is a special one. And if you count the number of branches on a menorah, there's always 7 branches. But on this one, it's a Chanukiah, and there's actually 9 branches, 8 branches which you can see, 4 on each side, and there's 1 in the front, which is the servant, which is the one that's used with a candle to light all the other ones. What I'm going to do is to go towards the ark now, I'm very nervous about we're going to run out of battery, so I'll keep moving. And I'll step back a bit so you can probably get a better idea. And you can see there are scrolls inside. Now these scrolls are the books of the 5 books of Moses. Each one of these scrolls, of which there's 3 you can see, contain the 5 books of Moses. And it's the same everywhere again in the world. All the scrolls, apart from for special festivals, all contain just the 5 books of Moses. What I'll do, these are all scrolls inside. I can't take them out now because it's only me. And normally we'd actually open it and perhaps do a little reading from it. Unfortunately, we can't do it with one person because it's much too difficult to actually take the scrolls out. I'm just going to walk around to where the bimmer is now. Just saying, just a little bit, as I'm walking around, just a little bit about the community. We're very tiny. The community goes back to 1833. It wasn't here. We've been here since 1963, before my time here. In 1833, there was a small place in the bottom of the town in East Street, or just off East Street. And after that, there was a synagogue, and it was behind, people who've been here around, a little while, it was behind Owen Owens, it's near the old walls, but it was compulsory purchase, and the community moved here in 1963. To just mention 1 or 2 things that we have, you can see this blue item here. This is what we wear. It's a yarmulke, a couple, what we wear on our heads. I've got one on at the moment, an old crease one, but I thought I'd get out a nicer looking one. And you can see on here, normally I'd probably show this properly. You might be able to see that this is a sort of scarf, like a scarf. It's called a tallis or a tallit. And it's what we wear as a prayer shawl on certain occasions, mainly only on morning occasions, morning M-O-R-N-I-N-G, on a Sabbath, on Shabbat. That's what we'd wear. And the only other time we'd wear it is on on Kol Nidre, which is the eve of the Day of Atonement. I'm not going to test you on all these things afterwards, by the way. One other thing I'll show you on here, because it's something that it's an interesting thing, is called a shofar. Can you see that? Okay. It's a ram's horn, and it's one that is used on the Jewish New Year. And on the Day of Atonement, mainly on the Jewish New Year. And it's blown a number of times. And it really is, I'm not sure if this one's a ram's horn, a lot of them are artificial these days. But this goes back, of course, to the story of David in the Bible. And this is what we would blow. And normally when people finish here, I'm not sure how we're doing for time at the moment, by the way. How are we doing for time, Claire?
You still have a lot of time, 4 minutes.
4 minutes,
Right.
Well, one of the things I would do is to actually have a blow of it. It's very difficult to blow, and I would just sort of make a sound if I can. I just. Very, very musical, not exactly. I don't play an instrument, and it's quite clear, really. So is there anything else I can see in here that I want to tell you? I'm just going to refer to a note of mine. One of the things, as I said, that we are a very tiny community, and when we have a proper service, we have very few services for a start, and we haven't actually had a service here since before the first lockdown, so it goes back to March. And when we do have a service, it's normally led by Rabbi Zalman, who comes over from Brighton to look after the students, and he'll let us know that he'd like to take a service, which is wonderful, and then we have a service. And to have a proper service, you need 10 men, and that's very difficult. We don't have 10 Jewish men in our community, but you never know. If there's anybody out there who's interested, get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Can I already ask a question? When do you wear a phylacter, tefillin?
Well, the tefillin is on certain occasion. You don't wear it in the synagogue as such. But you would wear it at home and on special occasions. I don't have any tefillin, but when Rabbi Zalman comes over, or the rabbis come over on the Jewish New Year, because we get Zalman's brother-in-law, or brother-in-law, I think it is. He comes over, leads some of our services, and he brings them over, and he'll invite members of the community if they would like to put them on, because we're not used to doing it. It's mainly, really, it's more of an Orthodox thing, and I'm not Orthodox, so that's not something I would normally do, but I'm delighted to do when somebody can help me do it.
Thank you very much, Martin.
You're welcome.
And
I'll go mute myself now.
Yeah. And you can also switch off your camera if you want to save battery.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, now Sarah Hall, who is the, Reverend Sarah Hall, who is the Minister of Avenue and St. Andrew's Church.
Hello, and it's good to welcome you all to Avenue St. Andrew's, and particularly because we've had a refurbishment project over the last 3 years called Avenue 2020, and it's come to a close this year. It's been funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. So as well as telling you about our building, I'd like to fill you in on a little bit of what we've discovered through the course of that project. We've explored the music of hymn writer Isaac Watts. We've researched the design principles of James Cubitt, the architect who designed our building. And we brought to life a story from our archives of the church's involvement in supporting soldiers during the First World War. So to begin at the beginning, the origins of our congregation can be traced right back to 1688, when the old above bar chapel, not the current above bar church, but the old one, was founded in the centre of Southampton. And our archive now cares for the records from above bar and 5 other parent congregations. And one of the things we have, and I'm hoping we can see it properly because it is a grey day, and we've got a window to look through. Let's see. Can we see?
Yes, we can.
Right, there is a sculpture, a bas relief, and I think I'm going to try and put myself. No, I'll leave it. Is it visible that there's a sculpture of someone in the middle of the picture?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. That is indeed Isaac Watts, and he was rescued from above bar, the original one, when it was bombed during the Second World War. And to start with, it was kept in Tudor House, and then it moved to St. Andrew's Church, one of our other parent churches, and finally, when St. Andrew's and Avenue churches combined, it came here, and it's had a happy home in our courtyard ever since. Looking again at my own notes, you might wonder, Isaac Watts, I've vaguely heard of him, but why is he really so interesting to us as Christians? Well, he was a Southampton lad. He was born in 1674, and he's a famous poet, hymn writer, minister, and theologian. There's a story, which I really hope is a true story, that his father was the minister above bar, and young Isaac, after one of the services, came home and said, the 17th century equivalent of, "Dad, those hymns were totally boring." And his father, instead of beating him or telling him to go and stay in his room till he'd seen better days, said, "Okay, then, you write something better." And he did. He wrote songs based on the Jewish Psalms, which at the time were the only songs that people ever sung in church. But Isaac gave them a Christian twist, and he used simple language to help people understand them better. And they became the first hymns. So he became known as the father of English hymnody. He wrote over 700 hymns, and some of them are still used in our services today. Some of you may have sung "Our God, Our Help in Ages Past" in remembrance services, and "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross" on Good Friday. Watts was educated at King Edward VI Grammar School, and a line from "Our God, Our Help in Ages Past" features as the title of a book about 5 members of that school during the First World War, written by Peter Jones, called "The Stormy Blast." And one chapter of that book is about Owen Hobbs, a member of our church who died in 1916. He's remembered alongside other casualties of the war on our war memorial, and we'll be looking at that shortly. In 1861, a memorial of statue Watts was unveiled. It's situated in West Park, which is now apparently sometimes called Watts Park for obvious reasons. And if you've been in the city centre, you will have heard the civic centre clock chiming the melody of Our God, Our Help in Ages Past every 4 hours during the day. It must drive you mad if you're working there. So I want us to move from the concourse, where we are now, into the sanctuary where we worship. And the concourse is the newest part of our premises. It links the church and the church halls, links our worship and our service. And it's really sad seeing it so empty at the moment, because normally we'd be having our weekly community cafe, we'd be having our weekly drop-in centre for asylum seekers and refugees. And we are really hoping and praying that soon we can start again offering help to those in need, because that's one of the ways that we see as our worship of God. And we come now through to the sanctuary, past innumerable church corridors. I think every church and probably every building of worship has 10,000 corridors filled with, you hope, useful things, but which are mazes for anyone else trying to find their way in. But we've managed it. We've got through into the sanctuary. You can hear the difference by the extra echo, and I think you can see the difference too. Our current congregation was formed in 1986 when the members of Avenue Church and St Andrew's Church joined. But till 1972, Avenue URC was known as the Avenue Congregational Church. And in 1892, the founders of that church bought the land and opened a temporary church. They chose a minister, set up a Sunday school. They established a committee. Our church is very good at establishing committees to oversee the planning of a brand new church building. And several architects submitted plans, but the designs of James Cubitt, who designed the iconic Union Chapel in Islington, received every vote. And if we have another look round the building, you'll see the beauty of the building that he designed. Even up to the rafters of the roof. A local company from Beavistown was chosen to build the church. The foundation stone was laid in 1897, and the church officially opened in December 1898. It was the first public building in Southampton to have electric lighting. And since then, we've continued to invest in new technology. The church now has solar panels, which meet much of our need for power. In keeping with the late Gothic style, Cubitt designed this building to be stately and ample. And one of its most striking features, which you'd see if it was nice enough weather to go outside, is a prominent red brick tower, which houses a unique ventilation shaft, so that all the hot air from sermons can escape through the roof. And again, it's a similar design to the one used in Union Chapel, Cubitt's masterpiece. But in contrast to the grand style of the building, the inside of the church is described by historian Clyde Binfield as friendly and homely. I suppose it depends partly what your home looks like, but yes, on the whole, I think I'd take his point. At the heart of the design was the desire to create a space where people could easily see and hear church services from wherever in the building they were sitting. And so Cubitt carefully planned the placement, the stone pillars, so that as many people as possible were not stuck behind pillars when it came to hear the minister preaching. And the pulpit, where the minister usually preaches from, the equivalent of the bimmer, that's put at the side so that again, the most people can see and hear what's happening. And to help people hear well, Cubitt designed the nave, where the congregation sits, to have perfect acoustics. And that's not just my impression. We've been told so by various groups that hold concerts in the building now. The building remains one of the few churches to have survived the Second World War bombing of most churches in Southampton. And Cubitt's design principles go on benefiting our congregation and musicians and other community groups using our sanctuary today. Now, you might have noticed on the way through, in all these rows of empty seats, there are pictures of angels on some of the rows. And that shows how we need to sit at the moment socially distanced. We have had a few in-person services in the early autumn, and we're very much looking forward to being able to get back to in-person worship once lockdown's over. I spoke a little earlier about Southampton's history and our church's history with the First World War. We're moving over now to our war memorial, which is looking even gloomier than the rest. So I'm rather hoping you'll be able to pick up the design of it when I turn the camera back. We've got a war memorial that's made in bronze. It's made particularly in the Gothic style. Early English Gothic, that's right, from statuary bronze, and it contains the names of 16 members of the church who fought and died during the First World War, including Owen Hobbs. And documents from our church archives tell the remarkable story of how the local church and the community supported thousands of soldiers who passed through the avenue during the First World War. Within days of war being declared in 1914, soldiers had set up camp on the common. Columns of troops marched down the avenue towards the docks, ready to embark for France. And one rainy evening, church members noticed some forlorn-looking soldiers on the common, writing letters home using each other's backs as desks. The next day, the Avenue Hall was opened up for the troops and they received a hearty welcome. And the story of 5 years' work had begun, supported by church members, volunteers, businesses, and townspeople. These efforts provided much-needed comforts to tens of thousands of soldiers, including stationery, tobacco, socks, books, entertainment. It was one of Southampton's most remarkable contributions to the war effort on the home front, and the work was recognised at the highest levels. The Assistant Private Secretary to George V wrote, "I am to assure you of the King's appreciation of the splendid work done in Southampton for the troops embarking for overseas." Today, along with the rest of the country, we mark Remembrance Sunday. This year, of course, we've gone online to do so. Do look at our church website to see that service. And if you see that service, you will notice that I'm wearing both red and white poppies to signify our church's commitments to remembrance of all those who, military and civilian, who through war and terror have been maimed or killed. And with all our colleagues from all faith traditions, we pray today that peace and justice may prevail in God's world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And we will post in the chat the link to the Facebook page to sign up for the Remembrance service on Thursday. Thank you. And now we are moving on to the mosque with Aiman Alzetani.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Aiman, and I'm one of the Muslim community of Southampton. My daytime job is a consultant cardiothoracic surgeon, and I'm going to, rather than showing me my face, I'm going to share with you the Medina Mosque from outside and then walk inside the mosque so that you can have an idea about what a Muslim place of worship looks like. So Medina Mosque is that big building you see on your way down to the city center. This is the facade, and in it you can see the name of the mosque, but above it in Arabic script, which is the language of Islam, the La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, the testimony of faith. And then here you see Allah and our deity, and it's the Arabic name for God, same used by Jewish and Christians. So it is the, like Dios in French, God in English, Allah is the name for God. And then this is Muhammad, which is the prophet of Islam, on that So this is the mosque, and we will walk inside the mosque so to see what it's all about. Now, a lot of places of worship you might have been appreciate have to have some etiquette, and the etiquette of the mosque is that when we go inside, you know, obviously there is an entrance for and an area for the men's washroom, and there's a side entrance for the ladies. But also it is important within the mosque to respect the etiquette of taking your shoes off. So I will take my shoes off here, and then I will walk inside. Now, the mosque serves a lot of functions. One of them is prayer, but before we go there, I wanted to show you the other functions. So these are the washrooms we talked about. These are the ladies' washrooms. Now, because the moment of the lockdown, I can go in there, but it's similar to the men's washroom. So I'll just give you an idea about this. The washrooms is where people perform ablution, prepare for the prayer. And they have a place here where they'll sit with the water coming out of, and a place for your feet so you can wash your face, your arms, and your feet. There are toilets on the side as well. So this is one area as part of the mosque to prepare yourself for the prayers. But then there is another not so happy function, which is the mosque is a place for preparation for death. And this is what is called the mortuary, but it is the wash area for the deceased. And I'll just take you through that. And it's very much like a massive bathroom, because this is the fridge where the bodies are laid to rest. These are the gurneys where they are carried across, then to this table, which is a metal table on wheels, and there are water buckets here to help in washing the bodies and preparing them for to be shrouded and then taken to the burial. So this is one of the functions of the mosque as well. The mosques also have functions, happier functions, like childbirth, where like weddings, and like celebrating things like Eid. And then there is the teaching, which happens in a variety of rooms around. So this is one of the rooms which is used for teaching. But the main function, obviously, is the prayer hall. And there is a stairs to an upside prayer hall, but we're just going to go for the low prayer hall down here. Straight away, you can see the mosque has these kinds of special laid down carpets. Now, some of the mosques have one carpet throughout, and some of them will have individual ones like this. And the idea that these are places where each prayer, worshipper will come in to the mosque to do his prayers, and they all point in this direction. So this is what we call the mihrab, or you can maybe call it the nave, similar to what Sarah was talking about in the church. It's or a cloister, and the idea is that this is place in the mosque which denotes the direction of the Qibla. The Qibla, which is where we pray to, and it corresponds to a place in modern Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. It's about 116 degrees southeast from where we are, and it has a holy shrine called the Kaaba in Mecca, in a city called Mecca, and this is where we pray to. So this is why the direction of the prayer mats is in there. Also, so this is one of the main functions of the mosque, having a place for congregational prayers, although we can have individual prayers as well, which is the case, unfortunately, at the moment because of the lockdown. Again, you can see some writings on the mosques. The main feature about decorations of the mosque is that we don't have any pictures. We use calligraphy and geometric shapes to decorate the mosques because it's forbidden for us to have any kind of living object, animate living creature displayed in the mosque. So we don't have statues, we don't have pictures of living things, but we use calligraphy and geometry to decorate things. Here you have a timekeeping board, and on it you can see different timings and these are there to help you with figuring out the times for the prayers. And there are 5 prayers a day, and then there's the congregational prayer timing at the bottom. It's called the Jum'ah, which happens on a Friday, similar to the Saturday service for the Jewish community and the Sunday service for the Muslim community. So these are sort of some of the features of the mosque. Now, the upstairs, I'll just plug my phone here, so just to get some charge. And you can see here, I wanted to show you something extra, which is the mosque, the holy books. So the mosque have cupboards like the ones you see here. They're covered at the moment, but these are there to hold these holy books. And this is the Quran. This is a picture of a this is the front cover of a Quran, and it have Arabic written here, and it opens from right to left, and it's nicely decorated with with calligraphy and also with these geometric shapes. And it basically reads from the right to the left. And the Quran is about 600 and something pages, and it's about 116 verses. So these are the verses of the Quran. Start with 1 there, and then it goes all the way down to 114 down there in about 604 pages. So these are sort of different pages, and they're named according to incidents or people. There's a verse here, Joseph. This is Jonah. This is Abraham. This is Mary, mother of Jesus. There's a verse in her name, but it can also be called after other things, like we have the verse for ants, we have the verse of the spider, we have the verse of the Romans. Anyway, so this is, and we usually have in the mosques things like these stands you can see there on the, so that the holy book is on a raised platform rather than on the ground. And also you'll see in the mosque some head covers. You saw where I covered my head, some rosaries, head covers, sometimes for the ladies, which they can wrap around their head. So this is the kind of design and architecture of the mosque and its functions. And we have the congregational prayer like the times you saw there on the screen, where the Imam, who sits in the cloister and leads the prayer, and then we line up behind him. And but at the moment we're doing these prayers individually. So how are we with time, Claire?
Well, you have a few more minutes if you want.
Okay, so for Muslims, we something just for the background of our religion, we believe that in God, the one and only, and that's why our testimony of faith will start. If I just sit here and so we believe that there is only one God, and that there's nobody worthy of worship other than Him, and that He has brought the religion to guide mankind through a variety of prophets, from the time of Adam, the very first prophet, all the way to Muhammad, and peace be upon all of him, passing through people like Abraham, prophets like Abraham, Jacob, David, Solomon, Moses, Jesus, peace be upon all of them. So we believe that the message from God is a one message, might have came to different times to different people, interpreted slightly differently, but it is the message of oneness of God. We also believe that God has given us some guidance through a written book called the Holy Scripture, the Quran, and there was something similar to the other religions, and that's why you might have the Gospel and the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Old Testament in Jewish and Hebrew traditions. And we also believe that we are all accountable. So we believe in the day after, or the day of reckoning, and where everybody will be accountable for their deeds in this life. And that will be where the ultimate justice and mercy of God are presented, so that nobody will feel that he has lost in this life the chance of getting justice, or that mercy will not be benevolent and present from God in the life after. So these are some of the tenets of our faith, what we call Arkan al-Islam. We have rituals. We talked about prayer, but we also have rituals other than like fasting 1 month a year from sunrise to sunset in Ramadan, and then we pay alms, 2.5% of our profit, excess of our needs once a year, and then once in a lifetime we will visit the holy place in Mecca, where we were praying to all our lives. So these are the 5 rituals. Obviously, any questions you may have, we'll put that to the Q&A session at the end. And I think I've used my time by now.
Thank you, Aiman. Perfect.
Thank you.
So yes, please use the Q&A tool or the chat to ask questions. I will now play the video about the Quakers, and I will see you after that for the Q&A.
Claire, the sound is really low on the video. Claire?
Yeah.
We can't hear the video.
You can't hear?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently it's not working. So you couldn't hear anything?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess we will then start the Q&A, and I will post the link in the chat. I'm sorry about this. So do we have any questions? Do any of the attendees want to unmute themselves or write a question?
Claire, would you like me to actually do a bit of an explanation?
Or you could do a bit of
behind
an explanation, Frank. Yeah, I'm sorry about this.
Okay, well, what I can say, that video was prepared 2 years ago with the help of students from Southampton University, which we're very thankful for. The beginning bit, what friends were saying, we call each other friends. So Quakers we spell with a capital F. So those people who you saw speaking at the beginning were generally saying, we can tell you all sorts of things about Quakerism, but the best thing for you to do if you want to know what we are about is come to our meeting. You're very welcome to come to our meeting. Now, our meeting house is in Ordnance Road, opposite the law courts at the top of London Road. And it's been there for since the 1880s. And we've grown up in there for the last 140 years. Basically, Quakerism is a faith that's derived from Christianity, but you don't necessarily have to be a signed up Christian to become a Quaker. So I hope people can hear me. So although it's derived from Christianity and indeed was born in the years of the Civil War, English Civil War in the middle of the 17th century, as time has gone on, and particularly in the last 100 years, we've developed a more liberal sort of theology, which actually is not a million miles different from other liberal Christian theologians. But one thing that Quakers have never had is a written creed. So we don't have to say what we believe in as a matter of the spoken word or written word. But we do have beliefs. We have lots of them. We tend to vary in our beliefs because what we believe is most important is actually our own spiritual experience. And our own spiritual experience, although that can be guided by others and helped by others, it is a direct link with what might be called the divine. I'm choosing my words a bit carefully here because there are quite a lot of Quakers who, if they're asked if they believe in God, would say, well, it depends what you mean by God. So you may think that's dodging the question, but actually what all Quakers do go along with is their experience of the spiritual life and of what we
Okay. I think Bronk, okay.
I think something happened there. I think my own got cut off. I'll continue for just 1 or 2 minutes. You might, if you were to see the end of the video, you'd see the Quaker burial ground, which is at the opposite. It goes onto the avenue at Brighton Road. So about 10 minutes walk up towards Winchester from the meeting house is our burial ground that's been there since the 1660s, and where we do actually bury friends who have of the locality. And in fact, there's still space in that burial ground for Quakers to be buried, although mostly when friends are cremated, they wish to be cremated and the ashes are scattered there. So the burial ground is still there, but the remarkable thing that's noticeable about the burial ground is that the gravestones are not shaped in any particular way. They are very simple. They've got rounded, surface at the top, and the inscription on them just gives the name of the friend who's died, and with either their date of birth and date of death, or date of death saying how long they lived. And there's usually no memorial words at all. And that is to be consistent with our testimony to simplicity and to equality. We have no hierarchy. We don't even employ ministers. All our Quakers are, if you like, voluntary, but they are taken into membership according to particular criteria, which means that they adhere to the principles of Quakerism, which are of religious devotion, love, care of the society, care of the environment, and truth, integrity, and also peace. So those are the things that really mark out the Quaker community from the others. When I say peace, I don't necessarily mean complete pacifism. A lot of Quakers are pacifists and might actually be not all that keen on Remembrance Day services. I personally do honor the dead, as Sarah has said, on either side. All people on either side, and civilians and soldiers and military who have suffered in wartime and have been killed in war, we remember those every Remembrance Sunday. So our remembrance is general, much more general. And because we don't like war, and in fact, we were talking about it today in our meeting, the principle is we try to deal with all the causes of war. So the sufferings that is so widespread among humankind, we would work to alleviate those in any way we can. So get to the bottom of the causes of war, deal with the causes of war, and that we would hope would be a more effective way of dealing with the warlike world that we have at the moment. So our meeting house, as I say, is in the Ordnance Road. It's closed for general purposes. It is now closed during the current lockdown. We did have a period in which it was opened to a limited number of people by previous arrangements, but they've had to go. The burial ground, if you walk down the avenue past it, just take a look to your right. It's just above St. Edmund's Church, and you will see that there is a little plot of ground there where we still continue to bury our deceased Quakers. I am the current Quaker faith advisor to the university, but there are other Quakers around to whom you can ask, and we have a website. In fact, if you simply doodle Southampton Quakers, you will be able to get onto our website and learn more about us. So that's us for the moment. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Frank, for stepping in. Okay, now it's time for discussion, questions. If any of you have questions. To each other, or...
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Anushka, please.
I just wondered whether do you all do outreach for the university in terms of getting students involved with your different faith communities and like religious services in normal times?
If I may answer that one,
Yeah.
so the various faith communities, well, including the Muslim ones, will have the places, the mosques. There's about 6 big mosques in Southampton and smaller ones, which are centered around different communities. So some of them may be more aligned to the Turkish community, the Bangladeshi community. So they are open to anybody, but they are cultural as well to a particular group of people. Now, the university have a thriving ISOC, which is Islamic Society, which does functions and activities there. They have their own prayer room in the university. I think Solent University have the same arrangement as well for the student body. So students tend to get engaged more in their local student society for their functions, although they are, they are welcome to any of the mosques, and some of them may culturally align themselves with a mosque for that reason. So people who are from the southeast or from the Turkey or will go to that mosque more or less for the cultural side of it. So that's for the Muslim community at least.
Yeah, if I can ask for the Quaker
and I'm the
community.
Muslim faith advisor for the university, just in case people wanted to sort of, and I can help.
Maybe Sarah first and then Frank. Okay.
Yes, I'm one of the Free Church chaplains to the University of Southampton. Unfortunately, partly, I guess, because of the general COVID situation, our building is currently closed. And that means that it's quite difficult for us to have contact with individual students, because on the whole, we never used to collect email addresses because everyone knew where we were. So we're finding it quite challenging at the moment. We offer things like English conversation lessons for overseas students and different sorts of prayer that are posted on our Facebook page. But I have to say we are somewhat struggling to make contact at the moment. And if anyone's got useful ideas, then all the chaplaincy team, and that's not just the Christians, will be very glad to hear from you.
Yeah, and the Center for Faith Reflection and Faith Center played a very important role actually to welcome students, in particular international students. So it's really hard that it's closed at the moment. Frank.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. The Faith and Reflection Center, which until 3 years ago was called the Chaplaincy, has always been multi-faith. So it is better to call it the Faith and Reflection Center. There are the chaplains. We've got 2 lovely Catholic sisters, and we've got Sarah, who are our official chaplains, and they keep the business going. There are also faith advisors. Aiman is the Muslim faith advisor. We've got the Catholic, the chaplains there obviously connect with the Catholic community. We've got Zalman, who is a roving Jewish faith advisor for the Jewish community in the university. We have a a humanist faith advisor, which is an interesting development. And we've got Buddhists and Hindu, and we've got Quakers. So we are there. We are all feature on the website. So in fact, if any person interested was to just Google the Southampton University Faith and Reflection Centre, you'll get onto the page. And you can have a bit of fun exploring that page. You can find about Quakerism under the title Christians. There are about 20 Christian organizations there as well on the page, but we feature among the Christians there, and there's quite a lot written about Quakerism. You'll find similarly amount of detail among all the other faiths there. We are pretty active. We try to be. In normal times, we hold a Quaker meeting for worship, which is a service, if you like, every Tuesday lunchtime in the chaplaincy building, in the FRC building. And I'm also spend some time in the building from time to time, chatting to students, taking part in some of the conversation, and also sometimes feeding the students. That's quite a popular activity. In the past, we've had Monday evening pastor nights and Thursday lunchtime bun fights for students to come, and that's always an opportunity to talk. So we try to be as active as we can within the university, and we are very much approved by the university and supported by the university in these activities. So in normal times, we are quite accessible. At the moment, it's obviously difficult, but we do our best.
Yeah, thank you. Martin, do you want to say something? You need to unmute yourself. Bottom left.
Well,
yeah.
I thought I was, yeah. Rabbi Zalman was mentioned a minute ago. So Zalman Lewis is a rabbi in Brighton, and he comes over generally once a week to visit the Jewish students. And there is a Jewish society, which is a similar name to the Islamic Society, but except it's got a J instead of an I, so it's called JSOC. And there's a small group of Jewish students there. When we have any events at the synagogue, Zalman often actually take the events there and bring students with him. But at the moment, we don't see so much of them. But then I guess it's a sign of the times at the moment, and hopefully things will change perhaps in the future.
Thank you very much, Martin. So Ravindra would like to step in, say something about the Hindu temple. Yeah.
Yep, certainly. Thanks, Claire. We've got a pretty vibrant Hindu community in Southampton. It's quite big. And when the temples, when it's non-COVID situations, we do actually have Sunday lunches as well, where everybody, whoever comes to the temple is given lunch, and you get a chance to meet everybody else. Also during the function times, what we used to do was arrange transportation for students. So for like Navratri, which was a 9 nights of dance festival, we would arrange transportation, a minibus to collect the students from their halls of residence and bring them to the temple for the dancing part of the festival, and then also drop them back to the university. So it is a safer environment. For some of the other events like the Diwali, well, the Diwali is coming up this year, but as the temple is going to be shut, we won't be doing anything for it except via Zoom. So we do have in the normal day-to-day type or in the normal opening times, we do quite a lot for the students to make sure that they do get integrated and they do have a place to go to, and we collect them and drop them back to colleges as well.
Excellent, thank you. Ravindra, any other questions? No? Well, I guess I just need to thank you all really for being so good with the technology and doing this virtually online. It's actually, it gives a good sense and a good feel of the variety of faith in Southampton and the wonderful people who are here and welcoming us in the different places. So I hope you can go back to your places of faith soon after the lockdown. And I will see some of you tomorrow for the Interfaith Dialogue at 5 o'clock. So you can join, you can find the information on the Parks Institute website, and it's also posted in the chat. Thank you all.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Farewell.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Claire.